Good morning and welcome to our UBC Learning Circle, our continued search honoring our stolen relatives. Today's conversation is presented in partnership with the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health and the Indian Residential School Survivors Society. We'd like to thank the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the UBC Learning Circle and allowing us to have these conversations. Before we formally begin, I'd like to acknowledge with respect and gratitude that I'm joining you from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Please feel free to introduce yourselves and the nation you're calling in from in the chat box. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarain Squawkin. I'm the Learning Circle Manager. I'm Sealth Okanagan on my mother's side and Hickory Apache and Belgian on my father's side. I'll be the moderator for today's discussion, and joining us working behind the scenes is Cynthia, our production coordinator, and our production assistant, Nicole Northpagan. They'll be in the background interacting with everyone in the chat. And finally, before we get into today's discussion, I'll provide a gentle heads up that the topics covered may be sensitive or emotionally triggering. Please make sure that you're looking after yourself, and if at any point you feel like you need to talk to an elder, friend, counselor, or family member, don't hesitate to do so. We have some prompts in the chat for additional support. Now I'll turn it over to our guests to introduce themselves.
Good morning. Thank you, Sarain. Wake dan awake mak wake chan lat sikt. Sahumek wan squest. Eskedam uluk to Sahuam Jean. Hello, everybody. My name is Jordy Johnson. I carry the traditional name Sahumek, and I'm from the Eskedam First Nation. And today I'm joining as the development manager with the Indian Residential School Survivors Society, and happy to be here. So I'm going to pass it over to the screen to my right, Alana, Jolene, and Chas, if you want to go through your introductions. Thanks.
Emma Snanout, good morning. Neath Dion McGrath, Tian Squatchy. My name is Dion McGrath. I'm from Statliam Nation, and I'm the MMIWG from Fraser Salish area.
Thank you, Dion. Let's move over to Alex and Gail.
Gail Jones. I am the MMIWG Coordinator Program Manager. We're just having a little internet instability here. But my name is Gail Jones. I'm the Program Manager. I am from the Eskedam First Nation, 55 kilometers outside of Williams Lake, but I reside on the Splatseen territory, which is in Enderby, BC.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, and I look forward to the discussions that we're going to have today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alexandra O'Donoghue. My ancestral name is Pakmagas Muflach. I come from the Celtic, Haklip, Lillooet, and Irish territories, but I currently reside on the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh territories in Vancouver, BC. I am the MMIWG coordinator for the Vancouver Coastal region and the Fraser Salish region.
Thank you, Alex and Gail. We'll move over to Barbie and Norma. Oh, just need to unmute you. There we go.
Oh, good morning. My name is Barbie Wiskichak. I'm from Saikas First Nation. My Indian name is Samyaz. It means little star. I am Daket, and I am English and Irish. Today, we sit on the beautiful territory of the Tene, and I just want to acknowledge that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Norma Jean Stump. I am from the Chilcotin Nation, and my office is in Williams Lake, and I am the MMIWG coordinator for the interior. Thank you.
I forgot to mention that I'm an MMIWG coordinator too, sorry. And I am an interior coordinator, and my office is based out of Kelowna, BC.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbie, and thank you, Norma. So I see that we're a little more situated upstairs there. So Alana, Jolene, and Chaz, let's try this take two.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Alana Moore. I live and work on Treaty 8 territory, the Denizat people. I am the MMIWG coordinator for the Northwest. And I will hand it off to Julie. Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jolene Paquette.
I live, work, and play on the Late Lake Tenay's territory here in Prince George, BC. I come from the Atakakook Cree Nation down in Saskatchewan, and I'm the MMIWG coordinator for the Northwest. I cover the highway interiors.
I'm the Northeast, actually.
Thank you.
Good morning, friends. My name is Chaz Kootley. My traditional name is Shalinik. I come from the Inlakat Nation on my mother's side, and I'm third generation Irish settler on my father's side. I am a missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls coordinator. I work in the Vancouver coastal region area, and I live, work, play, heal in the beautiful and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Happy to be here with you today. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Alana, Chaz, and Jolene. All right, so good morning, everybody. And as we did provide a small welcome here, we are going to start off in a good way. So this will be led by Barbie. So Barbie, we'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. Creator, we come before you today with humble hearts. We ask that you protect each of us and open our minds and hearts to what you would like us to carry on in our journey. We're very blessed to have the land to be able to take any of our problems, to take anything that is too much for us to carry. We can always lay it down. We thank you, and we ask that you be with us. Hi.
Thank you, Barbie. I'm just going to go back to this one. Just a quick reminder for those of you that may have just arrived a little late. We do provide the cultural warning and a cultural safety, that this is a culturally safe space. So a trigger warning. Some information shared in this presentation may stir up or trigger big emotions or thoughts. The Indian Residential School Survivor Society encourages you to take care of your whole self. We also have plant medicines and land elements in the shared space for grounding to support holistic wellness as well. The IRSSS also has a 24/7 crisis line. You can be reached at 1-800-721-0066 if you require further emotional support or assistance. All right, so we went through a round of introductions, but I just want to hold my hands up to this wonderful team that has been doing some great work on the ground. So thank you, Barbie, Norma, Alex, Gail, Dion, Chaz, Jolene, and Alana for all of the great work that you've been doing to support our families and to support our communities and just being there for our people. So thank you for all of your hard work. So we'll move into the presentation here. So before we do, of course, we want to take that moment to honor our relatives. So if we could take a moment here and just reflect and also take in some of the words that Barbie has shared just a moment ago. So we'll take this moment. Thanks. Good Fem. Thank you for that moment, everybody. So we'll move into our presentations. So our first section here is to take a look at a harm reduction approach. So Gail, I'll pass this to yourself and to your team to share on how we can do this in a harm reduction approach and some of the work that you do, of course.
Thanks, Jordy. We have 8 of our coordinators online with us, and we're all going to share what the work that we do and our learnings and the teachings that we have, and we're all going to share what we've done. And Alex will be taking the lead on a lot of the panels or the discussion slides that we're going to have, and everyone else will share what we can. We really want to make this more of a discussion on what our team at MMIWG does. So I'm going to let Alex go ahead and talk about a harm reduction approach and the work, how it affects MMIWG, how it works within our coordinators.
All right, thank you, Gail. Alex.
Hello, so I was thinking about a harm reduction approach and I really like this slide. I think that it definitely applies to the work that we do in community. So when I think of a harm reduction approach, I think about when we're working in community and how our organization and our team really creates low barrier access to services and supports in community. So we really meet people where they're at and connect with them and see what they need. And we do it from a client-centered and strength-based approach. Chaz, did you also want to touch on this slide as well?
Hi, thank you, Alex. Yeah, I'm happy to discuss a little bit on this slide. When we talk about harm reduction in community and working with our loved ones, absolutely, it's about meeting people where they're at and really providing services that aren't going to cause more harm. Some examples of this could be practical setting is like literally meeting someone at their home or away from an area that might be harmful for them to be in, helping people get to a safe space if they are fleeing intimate partner violence. There's so many ways and so many approaches that we can employ with our people to reduce harm. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to share on this slide?
One of the things that I'd like to share is just, it's very fitting to me to see the hawk on this slide. We see that animals guide us and are protectors. And basically we come in with that very knowledge. Our people have connected to their traditional ways before residential schools, before any of these things that have traumatized us. And so basically what we do is just allow them to feel safe and allow them to take the lead and to bring them back to the land so that we can release and allow for our spirit guide to carry through these heavy loads that we carry.
I think another thing that another support that we offer from our organization is also working and implementing culture into the work that we do. So we focus more on like a medicine wheel approach. So we focus on like mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of someone when they're doing or receiving supports in community. So sometimes people want to access medicines, or they want to access getting connected with elders, or they want to access safe supports in groups or one-to-one, and that's something we can support people in doing as well.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Before we move on, of course, Dion, do you have anything else to share?
No, I think I'm good. I don't want to because I know I've got a lot of more important stuff to discuss, and I'm just grateful to be here today with everybody.
Thank you. All right, so Alex, did you want to lead this one as well?
Sure. So when I think of the cultural impacts of the work we do in community, I think about a lot of the land-based healing that our MMIWG coordinators do within the organization and in community across the province. So as a lot of us know, there's a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life in terms of culture and traditions across BC, and there's a lot of different people who like to access support in community in terms of culture, and not a lot of people know where to go all the time. And so I think that's one unique thing about our organization and our team, is that we come from a lot of different places across the community of BC, and we connect with a lot of different people from a lot of different cultural backgrounds, and we're able to offer support and connect with other people, other knowledge keepers in community who can help offer support in community. That could be for example, like going to water baths, going to the longhouses or the smoke houses, or going to sweat lodge, or bringing in people to do smudging or cedar brushing, going to Sundance. You know, there's a lot of different culture that our team has access to and can connect community members with. And the impacts that we're seeing are all positive impacts. A lot of the clients and the people that we're working with in community, it's always like you're lifting that negative energy or that pain or that heartache or that trauma that you're feeling. You're lifting that, you're helping them lift that pain and that heartache that they're feeling when we're connecting them with those ceremonies and those cultures and those traditions. I find more often than not, there's a lot of disconnect in community when they are wanting to access culture. Not everybody knows where to go, especially if you're living in an urban setting and you're not living on reserve. It's hard to access those supports, and most people don't know where to turn to. And we have a team of 8 coordinators and our program manager as well, who have so many different connections in community across the province of BC, and so many different people that we can connect our families with. If anybody else wants to chime in and let everybody know what types of services or supports that you guys have connected your families with, feel free to join in as well.
I'd like to step in and say that I think we're very unique with the cultural and tradition resources that we have at IRSSS and our MMI government. We have coordinators that are situated in Fort St. John, Prince George, Williams Lake, Kelowna, Chilliwack, Vancouver. So when we look at all those areas where we work out of, we think of the communities that are involved around. We have Stolo Nation, we have the Secwepemc Nation, we have Chilcotin, access to resources in all these communities because of the outreach that we have. And it's really important when we reach out to families that they know we bring in resources that are specific to them. And we're also very aware of people who may not have Indigenous cultural or the resources to that, and may still rely on the church or whatever other religion that they practice, and that we meet them there. But with our group, the cultural and traditions we get to bring back to communities, I'm very proud that we cover a lot and we can bring a lot of them in. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And that kind of reminds me as well of some of the initiatives that are grassroots that are happening within communities. So sometimes those grassroots movements do make a big effect. So it's just continuing those. And one that comes to mind, of course, is one that's close to both Gail and myself in terms of community, being the commitment sticks that were once presented. So for those of you who don't know, there was an initiative with in our community called the Eskedem commitment sticks. And those were sticks that were provided and preyed upon and provided to people who made a commitment for safer treatment to women and girls throughout the community, and that they wouldn't be bystanders within those kind of situations. So those kind of commitments was a grassroots movement that, of course, started within one community and has evolved throughout the past couple of years. So I just wonder if any other similar impacts that people could think of, because of course we know that there are smaller community movements that do support our community with regards to some of our stolen relatives.
I can add to some of that. I
For
just
sure.
want to give some information on some of the work that I've done with my MMIWG families. So I do not tell them what they need. Like, the families come to me and they open up to me and share with me with what is happening and what they need, and I just do my best to make it happen. For example, I set up a traditional healer for one of the mothers who was very distraught and devastated. She was in extreme grief. And all I did was give her a list of the local traditional healers that I knew of and asked her if she had one in mind. And she picked the person she wanted to see, and I brought that person in, and her whole family, the siblings, everyone got to see the traditional healer and it really helped. It really helped her. It really grounded her. Her spirit was off, and that was from the trauma she was experiencing by finding out that her daughter was murdered. And some of the other work I've done is bringing families out on the land. There was a local, it was a traditional healing camp where they did medicine baths, and it was all by the river. And there was probably like 3 or 4 families that got to be out there all day on the land. And so basically it's finding out what they need and just trying to make it happen, not telling them, I think you need this, I think you need that. It's just letting them guide their own healing, whether it's supporting them in court, whether it's whatever, just being reliable for the families. And also the opportunity for them, for any nation or any family, to request their own cultural person. They might have their own cultural worker that they want to have, and they can fill out a form online for IRSSS, and they can pick who they want or tell us, and we just try to make it happen. So I think that's that's very effective for a lot of the communities. It's not one specific cultural person. We can assist them in getting their own nation cultural person if that's what they request. So thank you.
Thank you, Norma. And I saw in the chat as well a reference to the Tears of Hope Society and the work that they do with the relay run that happens in the north. I wonder if any of our northern folks have anything to chime in or share with regards to what happens with that initiative.
I can chime in on that.
Yes, thank you, Julie.
So Tears to Hope is a society directed with Lorna Brown. They assist family members along the Highway of Tears. They are expanding and trying to expand past the Highway of Tears now. What they do is they support the families, and they actually make posters that they put on the highway during this relay. So this relay happens in June of every year. It's a 10-kilometer run. It comes from 3 directions. So we come from Kitimat, Smithers, and Prince Rupert. And basically most of the runners are family members of murdered and missing. And what they're doing is they're running and honoring their families. And during that run, we have photos of the murdered and missing and at each post. And it's just to show and honor those faces instead of it being a number or anything. We're actually putting faces to those families, right? Lorna's done a fantastic job. She's doing a run again this next month. I will be supporting that in a bunch of different ways. So I'm going to be a convoy, and I will be following behind the families to ensure that they're safe on the highway while they run for their family members. The other thing that Lorna has potentially asked is that I might be bringing in some culture. I'm unsure right now. Lorna also does the Adawik film, so I was able to assist Lorna in bringing the Adawik into Prince George here last month, just before the National Red Dress Day. And we partnered with Carrie Scanney here in Prince George, and we were able to do a screening of the Adawik documentary, which features families on the Highway of Tears. We showed it at the Famous Players here in Prince George, and I was able to bring in cultural and emotional supports for the family members. We had smudging and brushing outside the movie theater. And then we had our emotional supports inside for any family members that needed us. So yeah, there's still registration. So if you'd like to run, you don't have to come to Smithers, or you can run right where you are. You just have to go to the Tears to Hope Society website, and the registration form's on there.
Thank you, Jolene. So does anybody else have anything to share before we move on? Dion?
This one really spoke to me. I really like this slide because like I can really relate to, being part native and then in part non-native, and just growing up with sort of like an identity crisis. Like I used to go to St. Mary's in Chilliwack, and where we had to go to church all the time. And then when I became older, I kind of switched to spirituality. So it's just when working with people, like especially our Indigenous people, it's just meeting them where they're at, which was mentioned earlier, because there's a lot of people that don't know their culture, they don't know their background, and it's just kind of like building that bridge of trust in order to meet them where they're at and to understand. And that's why it's always important, like I stress that a lot to different non-native organizations, is for them to understand what's happened to our people and that we're still dealing with the effects today. And that's what we're dealing with today still, like all these issues that our people deal with, and just doing the best we can to help our Indigenous people to heal from all of this trauma that's been put on us. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. All right, so we'll move. Oh, Alex, sorry.
I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Tammy's comment in our chat, our webinar chat, speaking to the importance of realizing that violence against the land makes a direct impact on violence experienced by our women, girls, and two-spirit relations. I definitely agree with that statement. And one of our coworkers, Connie Gray Eyes, who's unfortunately unable to make our webinar chat this morning, she does a lot of good work around that specific topic. And I know she does a lot of presentations with organizations such as like Pipeline, gas companies. Yeah, the different sort of gas companies that are working with a pipeline. And so I think she does a lot of really good work in bringing awareness and education to MMIWG and the direct correlation between the impacts of the violence against the land and the correlation between the violence against the land and the violence against our women and girls and two-spirit relations. So I just really wanted to acknowledge that comment in the chat. And thank you for bringing that up. And I also just wanted to say that the name of the film is the Adawak film. And I believe somebody in the chat had also mentioned that the link will be posted on the UBC Learning website afterwards.
Thank you, Alex. So we're going to move into our next slide here, and this is safety matters. So the point of this one is to bring up some of those safeties that could help support our women, girls, and our two-spirit people. So Alex.
I really like the slide. I think it definitely speaks to the work that we do in community. So we offer support in all different aspects. I think that one thing that really means a lot to us, of course, is safety when we're doing work in community. And so meeting people where they're at, sometimes we are connecting with women and they're fleeing violence, or they're wanting extra support in community. And so we really want to make sure that we're supporting them where they're at. If it's leaving an abusive relationship, if it's getting into safe housing, if it's connecting in community with supports, we want to be able to make sure that we're supporting their safety first and foremost. Sometimes it's meeting them in public spaces. Sometimes it's meeting them one-on-one. Sometimes it's bringing in people to help offer extra support in community, where it's like group support or counseling. Chaz, is there anything you wanted to add to the safety?
Yeah, you covered a lot of it, which is good. But just to reiterate, we can't do anything without safety first, right? And that really comes down to meeting people where they're at, and building that connection, just being with. I can speak to, we'll just say recently, a family I was really supporting and connecting with. The mother was getting really frustrated because she's like, this is why people stay, because there's no housing, there's no this, there's no that. I was able to work a period of time with her and her children, just being there. And, the feedback I got after was, thank you for sitting with me, just being with me. I didn't need to do anything for her except for be with her and support her in the decisions she was making. But to do that on your own when you're traumatized, in grief or in shock, it's too much. So it's really about connection, safety, respecting that person where they're at and what it is they need, and being really, really flexible. I know some people may work certain hours. We work when we need to work. It's really based on the needs of our people. Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Chaz.
I think another thing I would like to bring awareness to is that our team goes out, we do a lot of different educational workshops and presentations to help bring awareness to MMIWG. I think that acknowledging MMIWG is really important in creating awareness in community, and it's a direct call to action that the families had requested. And so, yeah, I think it's really important that we bring education and awareness to MMIWG. And, police, it could be working connecting with people who work in the health field. It could be educational workshops in high schools or post-secondary schools. It could be with nonprofit organizations who support Indigenous women and children in community. We definitely do our best to bring that awareness so that they are understanding when they're working with Indigenous women and children how MMIWG affects us as a community as a whole, and are able to safely support women and children in community as well.
Thank you, Alex. And of course, I would highlight some of the work that IRSSS has committed to just recently in the past month or so. And that was also to support Two-Spirit, to support trans people. So of course, creating those safer spaces, cultivating safe spaces, and keeping them on mind when we do some of this important work that's needed. So I just wanted to also highlight some of that that's going to be, of course, undertaken. Moving on, unless somebody else has anything else to add towards safety. All right. So of course, this slide here is just to present some of the work, to, of course, highlight some of the work that is happening or has happened. So I'll pass it over to you, Alex.
Hi, so the different types of supports we offer are individual counseling, group counseling, trauma counseling, grief and loss counseling, crisis support, cultural support, mental and emotional support, group support, court support, referrals and connecting clients to other community supports, outreach and community, supporting MMIWG2S survivors, family and loved ones at vigils, community events and services, educational workshops, education and awareness presentations, and then, of course, supporting families and community members with Western and traditional methods of healing. I think another thing as well is just supporting women if they're wanting to access health support services. I know sometimes that's come up in the work that we do. Women don't always feel safe accessing health support in community, so we can assist them in going with them as well. And then, of course, like land-based healing and cultural support, I think is a really big want from community members. We also can help support families with like printing posters or printing up or circulating posters, like help them with connecting with communities and advocating on their behalf as well. If anybody else wants to touch on any of the other additional supports we offer, please feel free to jump in.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, I could see Barbie and Norma also chiming in here.
Yeah, I would like to chime in on this. Prior to being a missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls coordinator, I was the Indian Residential School Survivor Society coordinator. And so what we did was we supported people, just allowing them to share their stories. Sometimes in order for us to heal and to move forward, we have to speak about it. And that was something that has been very difficult for our people to do. We allowed for them to have a safe space to be able to share what happened to them. A lot of times when that happens, it can bring people back to the very moment where they were traumatized in the experience of residential school. We were there to support them in regards to the different class actions that have recently passed. Some of the people felt that that would be a good way for them to bring closure and to move forward, and to utilize it, to better help their families in their own healing with whatever they received in regards to the class action. So I also wanted to speak about one of our elders does a calling back your spirit ceremony. It's a beautiful ceremony that basically allows for her to call back our spirit. When we have been traumatized, we do lose a part of our spirit. I think in the more Western world, we would call that depression. Feeling helpless and hopeless and not able to even wake up and to live anymore. And so the elder does a brushing down, and she, in the language of that person, she will call back their spirit. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness. And one of the things I noticed is the person would feel very happy and giddy and almost childlike after the ceremony was done, just free and able to just be. And so, just honoring everyone's experience and allowing them to share their story and allowing them to lay it back down to the lap. They can choose wherever they'd like to lay it, and then moving forward and being there for them.
Thank you, Barbie. Sounds like a lot of this is when you see a resume and it says, here's your job. It seems like you and your team, you all work beyond what's asked of you, and a lot of great and important work that you're all doing today. So once again, I say thank you to your team. All right, so the next topic is going to be about the conference tour. So just to share some of the work, some of the highlights that has happened throughout the past tour that happened in March. So we'll pass it over to Alex and Gail.
The MMIWG team hosted 6 two-day conferences in the month of March. We were in Terrace, Prince George, Kamloops, Osoyoos, Chilliwack, and Vancouver. And over the 2 days, we had allowed family members time and space to share their stories of their loved ones. We had recently been to another conference where families felt that they weren't heard. So when we started developing and planning this conference, we needed to make space for our families to share their stories, and to be able to say their loved ones' names, and to not be a statistic or a number on a piece of paper for statisticians. And it was a moving experience. We had a lot of families that shared their stories and expressed that it was the one time that they could share their stories and they felt heard, because we allowed everyone. We had Terrace, we had maybe about 30 participants in Terrace, and each one of them got to share their story. They hadn't shared their story, or they were afraid to share their story. A lot of the families that did disclose to us, they want to take their step towards healing, but every time they brought their stories up with their families, it was re-traumatizing, because not everybody was in the same space of their healing journey. So when they got to our conference and they got to share their stories with other people and they felt heard, their healing process started, or they were going down that right road. And we made that for everyone. So we also had our traditional and cultural supports as well. We had mental wellness teams from other areas of the IRSSS department, our HSWs and our trauma-informed team came out to provide support. So it was really a big group effort. And when we did our conferences up in the northern region in Terrace and Prince George, a lot of the common terms was we need this up here. We need these types of workshops, this type of conference to happen more often up here. And we're hoping to keep that now with Jolene, who recently in January started with us to bring more awareness and to bring more support for MMIWG in our northern region. And a part of our conferences where they got to share their story, we offered learning workshops. So the families got to share their story, and then we offered tools. So we had workshops that were how to cope with grief and loss, how trauma impacts the body, balancing our spirit, the impacts of residential school, and we had a red dress pin making beading class. And they were all well received by the families. And it gave them opportunity to learn some tools to be able to take home with them that they could share with their families. And a part of that, part of the heavy work of the families that shared their stories, along with their learning tools, we also had an entertainment component where we were uplifting, and we had dances, we had drumming, we had singing, and in a couple of other events, we had DJs, and we had a band that came out. We had a fashion show. We had a youth group come out and share their songs when we were down in Osuyas. And so in a lot of these entertainment events, one specifically, we were in Kamloops, and we had our support person, our audio tech person, just play some music. And we got people up dancing. You know, a couple of our MMIWG coordinators, they had to show us how to dance. Jolene and Connie, Alana and Connie, had to show us how to dance. And once people got up on the dance floor and they started moving, there was joy, there was happiness. And for families that live with grief and live with mourning of their loved ones, a lot of them appreciated that uplifting moment where they got to dance, they got to laugh, and they got to feel joy. They started learning and understanding within themselves that it's okay to be happy. I don't need to be mourning. I don't need to be sad. I need to live life. They will never ever forget. They will never forget their loved one, but that they need to remember to live for the people that were around them. So it was really enlightening, empowering to have those components in our conference. And I think once we wrapped up at the end and we all sat back and we really realized the work that we had done with the conferences, that how many lives were impacted, how many people still to this day, we're still getting emails. Thank you very much for having that conference. Thank you very much for providing this service to us. You know, our family is healing together now. We're out on the land. We're learning this. They're practicing their smudge in their house. They're practicing, ceremonies going out in the water on the land. They're sharing their stories with us still after this initial steps of healing. And I think at this time, I'd like our coordinators to all share something that really stood out for them at the conferences, whichever one it might be. So I think I'd like to go ahead and somebody share a memorable moment.
One thing I want to add before we do the memorable moments is that I really appreciated on this conference tour that we were able to make connections with new families and MMIWG survivors that we may have not made connections with in the past previous to this conference tour. And we're able to connect with other supports in community and let them know and bring awareness to our team so that if they come across people who are impacted by MMIWG, they know where to connect them with to get supports in community. I think that was a very important thing that came out of this event, was that we're building new connections and we're continuing those connections in community. Even after the conference tour was done, we've still continued to build relationships across the province.
Something that really stood out to me during the conference, when we first began, we started in Terrace, and there was a beautiful woman there. Sadly enough, she has been missing her son for more than 5 years. And the look on her face and just how she carried herself was really sad and heavy. And we felt really bad for her. And we just continued to move in the direction that we moved in regards to all the workshops, as well as the sharing and all of it. And she ended up traveling along with us all the way into about 3 or 4 more of the conferences within the province. And by the end of it, she was amazing. She was dancing. She was the first one on the dance floor and the last one to get off the dance floor. She was happy. She was, I don't think she was able to be happy for a very, very long time. And so that really stood out to me at just how much she was able to lay down some of her grief and some of the sorrow that she carried. And just the peace that she had on her face afterward was just priceless and beautiful. So that's something that I'll always carry with me. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, my experience and what I saw there was a lot of positive outcomes of all of our conferences. And I think that everyone got to share their story. They got to do some healing. They got some tools, and especially the entertainment at the end, because it wasn't just all, like doom and emotional stress. And it was releasing that and having the entertainment. And an elderly lady at one of the conferences, when it was over and we were packing up, and she was sitting at the table, and she said to me, I thank you all so much for this. She said, I never had this much fun in years, a very long time, like some of them still kind of coming out of the pandemic. And she says, I never danced, cried, and laughed so hard. So all of our blood, sweat, and tears, being exhausted, like it makes it all worth it just to hear that one comment. So that, it just makes you want to work harder for the families. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Barbie. We'll move into the other room here. Chaz, Jolene, Alana, if you want to share. And I think the question was a memorable moment from some of the tours, conference tour.
So for me, one of the biggest things was there were a few people who kind of followed us along throughout the tour, and everything started off really heavy. People were really untrusting. They weren't sure what to expect, and they were able to tell their stories. They were able to grieve with other people. They really lifted each other up. And I felt like as we went on, it just became lighter and lighter and lighter. And at each conference, that first day was really heavy. We had people shared, and then we watched a film, and there was workshops. And then that second day, everything really lightened up, and we had our entertainment, and people were laughing and crying and hugging, and it was really beautiful. We had a moment, I think, at one of the I think it was in Prince George, we had a band come in, and we had two elders who had taken their shoes off and they were two-stepping together, and it was so awesome to see. They were high-fiving. We had one lady tell us, "My hip hurts," and we said, "Well, why don't you sit down?" And she said, "No, I haven't had this fun in years." So it was just really beautiful. It was wonderful to see people lifting each other up and to be a part of that healing.
Okay.
Hey, so a lot of really memorable moments at each location, but I think one of the overarching things that stood out for me was the connections that were being built all along the way. Family members connecting with each other, and I kept hearing, "This is so nice to be together where, you know, we're not searching for a loved one or this or that. Like this is for us and we can be together." I have witnessed some of these people who are along the tour meet each other, and they've built these friendships, like this camaraderie, like adding to their healing and their wellness basket. And this is beautiful. This is incredible. I had one young woman I had invited, and she was really, we'll say, standoffish, wasn't sure what to expect or anything. And same thing, she was out there just dancing. You know, she wants to get back into powwow dancing, and she didn't want to get up. She didn't want to move. But once she got up and started moving, she just felt so good, right? Big smile on her face from ear to ear. It looked like her whole body was smiling. And we saw this with so many people. So just seeing people have the opportunity to be in their joy together with so many other people who've experienced the loss of a loved one, who have their loved one who's still missing, and experience joy with others. It was really beautiful to witness that. And just to further on what I think Norma said, it does make me want to work harder. It does make all of this worth it. You know, our family members are so worth it. I loved this conference series, and all the beautiful energy and love that was brought into each and every location. We were able to connect with people. Thank you.
Okay, so for me, the whole experience was beautiful. You know, from watching that one mother who joined us in terrace, very somber, didn't want us to help her in any way. She didn't even want us to come near her, to by the time we got to Vancouver, you know, she was happy, dancing, laughing. You know, I think this was the first time I had seen this mother smile in a long time. And then the other piece for me was the workshops. You know, as coordinators, we all sat in on some of those workshops, and to just watch those families. You know, I think a big part for me was in terrace, because a lot of those family members their families are on the highway of tears, and they've felt so misrepresented, and they had nobody, right? So listening to their stories and then watching them go into these workshops, you know, grief and loss was a huge one in every location. And to hear some of these families say, "Well, I never even thought of that. I didn't know that the grief could affect my body like this." And just, you know, just to watch that change in their faces when they leave those workshops. You know, they've taken those tools and they now have this little toolbox with them in their own home, and they can help their own family members on their healing journey. So it's just a really beautiful experience for myself, you know, coming in January 25th and just being like, "Oh, by the way, you're traveling for the whole month of March," you know, really stressed me out because I didn't know what I was doing. But, you know, best experience. And like Chaz and all my coworkers say, it just makes us want to work harder. I am a family member, you know, I have my own family member who was murdered. He was two-spirited, and we didn't have this 22 years ago. And so just to know that this is here now, and even to help some of my family members who have just buried this for 20 years, you know, it's been wonderful.
Thank you for sharing, Jolene. Before we move to Dion, of course, just thank you all. And it sounds like even throughout this this conference tour, there's this greater camaraderie between the group of you that may have grown throughout the month of March. So Dion.
I have to pick just one moment. Okay, that's kind of hard. I think the one that Alex and I emceed in Chilliwack. Currently, there's a lady from Spasm that's been missing for 3 years, and her family came to the conference. And just like what Chaz was saying earlier about noticing when someone's standoffish and just like, you know, kind of closed up, even though they're present physically. But when it was all over, she walked up to me as she was leaving, because I was by the exit door, and she hugged me and she said, "Thank you." So that was I just kind of was like in shock, but it just was very empowering for me, for her to do that and say that. So that's because we never know, right, where people are at. So that was kind of one of the things that really touched me.
Thank you, Dion. Before we move it back to Alex as well, I attended the Kamloops event, and it was wonderful to hear some of the songs local to, of course, that area. And I can imagine how it was hearing songs from all regions and all nations across the province. So I'll pass it back to Alex.
I can't think of like one specific, like I feel like I can't pick just one moment that I really like. So I'm going to share a couple small short moments. I think emceeing with Dion and Chilliwack, it was really awesome to see how we work together as a team. And I really enjoyed connecting with the elders in community up there. I feel like we had a lot of elders who came out to that event, and it was just really nice to connect with them. And for me, I'm somebody who I really enjoy connecting with people like of all ages, but connecting with elders is something I always hold near and dear to my heart. And to be able to build those relationships and connections up there in Chilliwack in the Fraser Valley region, I was just like, that really hit home for me. Like, it really touched my heart to be able to connect with so many elders in one conference. And then in Vancouver, I think another highlight moment was like, you know, that stress of helping host a conference. There's so many components that go into it, and we're doing a lot of work, and we're working with a lot of families who are impacted. And it's like we're collectively seeing that there's trauma and heartache and hurt in community, and we're seeing that. And we're going in, and some of us as coordinators are impacted by MMIWG as well. And so we're coming together and we're doing this work. And I think one thing that really stood out for me as a favorite moment is like when my coworker Chaz, before we started the day, you know, she pulled me aside and we said a prayer together, and it just really helped me feel connected and know that like we're going to have each other's back. We're going to stand in solidarity. Like it made me feel like as a team, we're really connected and we're here to support community in a good way. And then I also really liked that, like when we had in Kamloops, when we had Connie and Alana come out and do the dancing, in Vancouver, I was like, I'm going to invite some people up. And I got one of our board members up there and one of our RHSWs. And so I brought up a couple of the men from community, from our organization, to come up and like show us some dance moves. And so many people just thought it was hilarious to like see them up there, and they were like breaking out of their shell, and like it helped create that safe space for people to come out and dance. And I still have people connecting with me about that, and they're like, it's a memorable moment for them, and it's a memorable moment for me just to see people when we're working community. You know, that first, you know, day, it's like collective hurt and harm and trauma, and then the following days after, you know, it's collective healing and connecting with community. And I think that's something that's really awesome to see, you know. And I really appreciate seeing people of all ages there. Like, there was people who are not even 1 year old all the way up until elders, and they were coming out and feeling supported and feeling like there was moms in Vancouver who were like coming out, they had their kids. And for me, I'm a mother of 4, so I know what it's like to go out in community, and you want to connect with community, you want to connect with supports. And if you have your little ones, it's really hard to get connected. And there was people who were coming together from community to support that mother so that she could get something out of the conference. And I know that those mothers were feeling that love and that support because they had talked to us about it, you know, how they felt supported, where they could work on their healing journey. And so I think that's one thing that really stands out for me, is that just seeing the community pull together to support one another at that conference for me was a big thing, because I think as a mother, I know what it's like to be in that position where you feel like, oh my God, my baby's crying, or oh my God, everybody's looking at me, or oh my God, I just feel like I stand out or whatever, you know, like, but to see other people come together and support one another, it felt really good in my heart to know that there's mothers in community who are being supported, and there's children in community who are being supported and able to access support and community.
I think I want to, now that everybody shared a memorable moment, there's all the little side stories of the travel in between, and the little inside jokes that we all got to share as a team. But I also really want to recognize that the spaces that we went to, we had red dresses put up, we had lighting. Sorry, let me regather. The women that were there said they felt safe in the space they were at. We had red dresses put up, we had medicine on the tables, and the venues were put together to create a sense of home, family, safety. And really important to say, and I mentioned it after every one of our conferences, those safe spaces that were created were designed and put together by men. We had Eric Blesh, Brody Haff, Stan Amaya, Wendell Williams, Bill Orr. They were all a part of the 7th-gen IO tech team that came in and looked after all the technical side, the putting up, setting up the venues for us. And so when women walked in, and I'm going to say to Terrace was a small hall, and it wasn't very big, but the way they put up the red dresses and the cedar and the lighting, when people came in, they were like, wow, this feels really good. And so when we told them at the end that the space was designed and put together by men, and we introduced them, I think it gave them a sense that this is amazing work that those men are doing for us. So the men were represented in those ways. And when we got to Kamloops, I think we had the highest number of men providing support for MMIWG, whether they were affected or whether they had their murdered, missing Indigenous brothers, or we had the highest number. And it was significant enough for all of them to recognize how many were there, that they were in the room together and they took a picture because it was that important to them. So there's still all these little moments that you see pictures of, or I drove up from Enderby to here, and all the little pull-offs of where we were and where we stopped, and remember looking at the hills or wherever, just flashing back to those memories of all the work we had done. Our plans for future conferences, there are definitely more because there is a need for them. We need to make sure that we spread out where we're going to go and what we're going to do, where we're going to be present. So those are hopefully ongoing plans, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. Maybe we won't try to have them all in the month of March, and we'll spread them out a little more. And I'm really wanting to look forward to maybe even having on the land camps like Norma had mentioned, setting up camps where we go out for 3 or 4 days and just be on the land, provide some training. So those are the kind of works that we really want to step towards. And I think we got the team that can do it. And I really appreciate each and every one of them, because that was a big chunk of time that we took away from my families to support other families. And for that, I'm always going to be grateful to them. So thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you and your team for all the wonderful work you've done. So that'll close off this little section here, and we're going to move into the Q&As. I think we have a few in, so Sarain will lead this section here, and we'll just move to each panelist if they want to answer or not. Just put up your hand. Thanks. Serene.
Thank you. Our first question is, how do you spell the name of the documentary? We weren't quite sure how to spell that. So if someone wants to pop that in the chat or answer.
Okay, I'll take a look, Serene, if I could find something here.
Yep, yeah, actually, I've got it. It's
Okay, great.
the Adawak film, ADAAWK. And their website is ADAAWKFILM.com. And that's run by Lorna Brown and Wanda Good. And if you want to book any viewings for them, you can go to, I think they're tearsofhopesociety.com and make arrangements with them. They came along on a part of our tour because we requested them, and we wanted them to be able to share their story. So we collaborated with them to join us. But if you want to try to get that in your specific area, you will need to go directly to Lorna Brown at tearstohopesociety.com.
Thank you. Our next question is, how do you find more information regarding the workshops for nonprofit that Alex brought up?
I think every coordinator offers different workshops, and sometimes there's an overlap of workshops we run. So I'm not sure who asked the question, but if they wanted to look up our Indian Residential School Survivors Society website, they can reach out with whatever coordinator is in their region and then connect with them to see what kind of workshops they are wanting to access. Like, I know we've done like grief and loss workshops, we've done drum making workshops, we've done rattle making workshops, we've done like how trauma impacts the body workshops. Like, I think it depends on what the need is in the community that you're wanting. Like Norma was saying, we really try to support people where they're at in community. And so what you're needing in your community might be different than what somebody else is needing in their community. And so we kind of try to work with what resources we have available and then what you are needing in community. And so I guess it depends on what kind of groups you're looking to access. If they want to reach out to any of the coordinators for their region, they can reach out to us and we can see what kind of workshops they're interested in having in their region.
Thank you. Our next question is IRSSS and MMIWG going to be providing any workshops on grief and loss coming up? So needed for cultural perspective and using the teachings of ceremony.
Again, if that was from Tammy, right?
I'm not too sure.
If Tammy wants to reach out to us, I'm not sure where Tammy is joining us from what region. If she wants to reach out to the coordinator for her region, we can definitely work on setting up grief and loss workshops in community for her and anybody else who would like to access them in that community as well. I know that in Vancouver Coastal region and the Fraser Salish region, we're currently working on setting up grief and loss workshops.
Thank you. Our next question is, did you mention any barriers or difficulties while working with a diverse demographic?
We did not address any barriers or hardships that we've had. I think the hardships that we have experienced in the past, though, examples of that could be like when COVID and the pandemic were very much happening, there was a lot of restrictions in place. And so some of those impacted our ability to go out into community, to be able to connect with MMIWG survivors, family, friends, loved ones. I think everything turning to an online perspective really impacted people who weren't tech savvy or didn't have access to the internet or didn't have access to like laptops or computers or iPads or devices, like electronic devices, to be able to access those supports. If anybody else wants to add anything to that, I think that's probably our biggest impact.
And one of our other barriers is distance in travel, especially within our northern communities, getting to places, Terrace, Prince Rupert, all the northern communities, the distance in between and our lack of capacity. We have a team of 9. providing services to the entire province of BC. And in all those regions, the North, the Interior, Fraser Salish, and Vancouver Coastal. So capacity wise, we could easily have a double team, and it still wouldn't be enough.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Not enough time in the day.
Oh, that's another.
That's another one, because there's a lot of people to connect with across the province, a lot of different families, a lot of different individuals. And yeah, sometimes it just hours in the day to get done compared to the amount of work that we're being requested to do. I think that, yeah, we could definitely use more people on our team to support community more efficiently.
Thank you.
We will be hiring for a temporary position. Somebody's going on mat leave. I'll be going on mat leave in July or August. So if anybody wants to fill in for me for a year, that would be fantastic. It's a really good job. You'll love it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats. Our next question is, does the Family Information Liaison Unit help in communities as well?
That's fantastic, because the BC FILU had an information table at every one of our conferences and joined us. They had a team member at every one of our conferences. And when they had the opportunity to get up and introduce themselves and say what they provided, a lot of our families didn't know that this service is out there for BC FILU. And BC FILU will come to your community. They will come to you. So a family member that wants more information on their missing or murdered can reach out to BC FILU. They can get police updates. They can have them coordinate and speak with coroner services, RCMP. They can get other information that we can't get. And BC FILU, because they're a organization that is funded by the province of BC, so they have access to those services. So bcfilu.com can be reached, and Brenda, Landon, Teddy. Oh, those were the three that joined us in all those areas. So you can reach out to them, and they will come to your community. So if you are in Burns Lake and you need services from BC FILU, they will go out to you. You just need to reach out to them, and they'll provide you as many services as they can.
Great, thank you. And then we have two more questions left.
Oh, we have Dion.
Oh, I just wanted to speak on that, because right now there's a member in the local community that lost her sister like in the 80s, and up until now it was always like feeling like she passed away in a different way, which was like maybe somebody murdered her. So she reached out to me and we got in touch with FILU, and now she's going to get reports being given to her, like the coroner's report and police report and stuff. So that's kind of an example of what they do. And the lady actually came out to the community as well. So.
Thank you. And then our next question is, would hanging a red dress in a clinic space on May 5th be helpful?
I definitely think so. I think it helps bring awareness to MMIWG, and it helps create a safe space for people who are impacted by MMIWG to know that when they're accessing services from that clinic, that's a safe space for them to go to, because the people who are in that clinic will have awareness and understanding around MMIWG.
Our next question is, so this is from a white settler. They're wondering what the best support for MMIWG team and the IRSSS-DC would be.
Can they elaborate on that question a little bit? Like, do they mean support for us or support? How can they support our team?
I think how can they support the team?
I think if you're wanting to be an ally, I definitely think coming out to events that we're having in community and showing that you're standing with us in solidarity is always helpful for community members and for our team to know that, like, if we are needing extra support in community, it's always good to have those people standing with us and by our side, to know, because there are sometimes we have events and people, they feel angry or frustrated because this event may be happening in community and it's affecting like a travel route or something. And so they feel frustrated to know that we have other people standing with us and can help create that safe space and be a witness to work we're doing in community. I think that would be helpful. I think even sharing information about our organization and our teams and the supports we provide. If you're coming across people you're working with and they're impacted by Indian residential school survivors, if they're Indian day school survivors, if they're MMIWG survivors, or families or friends or loved ones, and they're wanting to access supports in community, feel free to share all of our contact information so that they can get the support they need in community. Feel free to share this information with all of your contacts. Like, networking for me in this field has always been super beneficial for the work I do in community and for the work and accessing and reaching out to community, because we're building community supports and community networks. And I think that's so helpful when we're wanting to get support into community so that people can access our services. Not a lot of people know about where to go to access cultural support or where to go to access counseling. Counseling is a big one. Not a lot of people know they can get free counseling through First Nations Health Authority. Not a lot of people know they can access counseling, and the wait list for counseling can be really crazy. And when you're wanting to access support in an emergency, in a crisis, for people to know in community that there's crisis lines that people can access, like that could save lives. Like sometimes people are really struggling with their mental health. They're really deep in their trauma. They're really deep in the moment. And they don't always know where to turn to. And if you have that information, share it, because you never know, it could save someone's life going forward.
And I think it's really important here to say that the Indian Residential School Survivor Crisis Line is 1-800-721-0066.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Gail. Serene, is that the end of our questions?
We have just one more question.
Okay. So we have
how
one more question, and then Barbie, in the meantime, drink some water and get your singing voice ready. Barbie will end us off here in a good way, but before then, we have one more question.
Our last question is, how are you increasing awareness about missing men and boys?
I know that some of our coordinators have connected with some MMIW V&M families, and do our best to support them in community as well. As a coordinator for the Vancouver Coastal Region, I work with and help support 2 different initiatives in the Vancouver Coastal Region that support murdered and missing boys and men, and murdered and missing boys, men, women, girls, and relatives, including our gender diverse relatives, just to help bring that awareness to murdered and missing people across the province. And so there's an event coming up on June 9th. There'll be a march happening in Vancouver, and then again in September there'll be another march happening. We're still waiting to set the date. We're still sort of in the planning phase for the second event, but we definitely do our best to support community across the board.
Thank you. Now I'll pass it over to Barbie.
Can I just add something quickly first? So we do not decline when there's a murdered or missing boy or man. Like, we have not said no to advocate for any family. We support everyone. And if anyone has a community event, they can invite us to set up an info table. If you want the information to get to your community, we can come and have our info table with all of our information and attend your event. So we can do that at whether it's Aboriginal Day, whether it's a community event. So you can invite us if you want us to share our information. Thank you. The IRSSS. And also, our cultural support form is online. You can fill it out online when you request a cultural support at any of your events. It's on IRSSS website, and you can all the information, put all the information there, dates, times, what you need for cultural support, and IRSSS sets up the person, and we have a list of the support people. Thank you.
I noticed another question there about services to Métis people. That was in the chat.
Yes, we do provide services to Métis people as well.
Thanks. And for Sophie, we will connect with yourself and maybe Alex with regards to the June 9th march. So we'll provide that information. If you want to just send us your email address as well, you can privately send it to myself or or to Alex and Gail. Thank you so much. We will provide it to Barbie. And just a quick note, we did do a sound check, and unfortunately, you may or may not hear the drum, but feel the drum beat within. So Barbie, we'll pass it over to you to close us in a good way.
Thank you, Jordy. The song I'd like to share is a Dakesh song. It's a song that is saying goodbye to the winter and hello to the spring and to the summer. You'll see it and hear a sense of sadness as a result to the harsh winter conditions. Not everyone survived. I liken it to today's world that we're in. We have so many different crises with opioid and all of it. Pandemics, all of this, not everyone survives. So, this song just brings that acknowledgement and honors the Creator for keeping us all strong, and there's a sense of gratitude, that we could share this song with you. In our language, there's no goodbye. It's called Nad Mustenla. It means I'll see you again, if not in this life, in the next. And the song goes like this. And Yaba da Cho our the night day. And Yaba da Cho our the night day. Goodbye, Sophie. Aya, hey. Aya. Aya, hey. Aya. Masicho.
Thank you. And I'll let you guys do some closing words, and then I'll go into the closing of the learning circle.
Yes, thank you, Sarain. So, Goksham, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you to our panelists for sharing a lot of their great information, their great insight, and for sharing the work that they've done. So, yes, we'll pass it over to anybody else who wants to provide some closing remarks. All right, Sarain. Oh, Alex.
Sorry, I was just waiting. I just wanted to first and foremost give a shout out to my team, my program manager, to UBC and Jordy for inviting us all to be here, and for everybody who came out to participate and listen and learn today. I think that's a really great thing to do, is bring this education and awareness to MMIWG and to all of our murdered and missing Indigenous loved ones. It's important to continue these conversations and continue to talk about it and bring awareness to it. And I just want to really thank everybody for coming out and sitting with us and listening and learning with us and becoming aware of the supports and services we offer in community. And thank you all for making this happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all our guests and for everyone joining us today. Thank you for the amazing discussion. It was great to learn about your guys' programs, the supports, and the workshops you guys provide for the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls with the Indian Residential School and Survivor Society. And thank you for another amazing season with the UBC Learning Circle. We will be taking a short break to prepare for our upcoming fall season of learning circles. Please be sure to sign up for our newsletter. The link will be in the chat. All learning circles are available for viewing at our YouTube at youtube.com/UBCLC. We are excited to bring to you new webinars. We will be back in the fall, and thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing everyone at our next learning circle. Lim Lim, thank you.